Hey, good morning, Katie. Just waiting for my stream. Waiting for my stream to begin. Waiting for my real life to begin. Okay. We'll get started in a minute. I've been using a really old, I had been using a really old version of Word. So I've updated to the new version. And when I look at slides, like the screen you see is a slide, right? It's a PowerPoint. And the old version only opened one screen with the PowerPoint. Now it seems like I have to have two screens open, which is really a pain. In other words, I'm using a much newer version of Word, and it seems to be incredibly dumber. And when I close the screen, it shuts down my PowerPoint. There must be a way to combine these screens. I have to figure it out. In other words, I have the PowerPoint screen. That moves the slides, see? And that's fine. And then to turn on the PowerPoint, to turn on the slides, I have this other screen. This used to be the screen I had with the old version of Word, and I didn't have a control panel screen. But if I shut the control panel screen, it shuts down my presentation. That's my problem. Anyway, good morning. I'm going to have to figure it out. Welcome to the 10-Minute Trades Trade Room. We're going to be looking at preliminary University of Michigan. My name is Lee Goldstein. I'm the trading director at 10-Minute Trades. Please remember that all the trades we discuss, they're for educational purposes, and it is possible to lose money trading futures. Okay, so, overall, most of us had a pretty good week. There were a couple of problems where some people just didn't get good fills, or the markets were too fast. We're trying to figure out how to solve it for some people. Sometimes fast markets cannot be solved. It's a reality of event trading. Sometimes that is the risk that we take when we trade events. I mean, when I tell you that I've talked to the programmer for years, trying to figure out a way to permanently remove any error that you ever get, it seems like it's not possible, because sometimes the market, you might have 10 events that take place in the market in your trade. Think of it, 10 events that might be taking place in the same nanosecond. That's what creates errors. Because the only people that can deal with that are multi-million-dollar hedge fund traders that have an office in the exchange. Those people probably never get an error. But we're retail traders. We have a broker in the way. We have a data provider in the way. All of those things slow down the executions. And that's why professional traders that are in the exchange, and they're also probably getting more favorable treatment also. But that's why it's harder, it's harder to be a retail trader. But that just goes with the territory. It has not prevented us from getting our account higher and higher and higher. Our account currently, I'm on my little account today because this is not a family money trade. But if I change over to our big account, just to be completely transparent, because we've been completely transparent. We're always completely transparent. How can you hide anything when you trade live in a trade room? It's impossible. How can you hide? I guess I could, but I'm not that smart. But our current account, oh my goodness, $21,979, $21 short of $22,000. We started dealing with the family money concept. The account was at 13.3. Okay, 13.3. We are up significantly. So what's the success? Why are we more successful than other people? So what if you just signed up a week ago? This week was one of our a little bit more challenging than any week ever. We had a stop out on bonds, and we had a trade that was so fast it was beyond belief. And some people made money on that trade, and some people lost money. So if you started just this week, you might actually have be losing money. But so what do? Do you quit? I mean, people who aren't real traders, they'll quit, because they can't deal with having a bad trade. If you can't deal with having a bad trade or 2 or 3 or 4, you should not be a trader. You should, drive an Uber. You'd be much happier. You're not going to be happy if psychologically you can't deal with accepting bad trades. There's always timing issues that come into play. So what's the solution? If you just joined any system and you had a trade or 2 that didn't work that first week that you joined, what's the best thing to do? You know what the best thing to do is to stay the course and trade all the trades. That's the best thing to do. Of course, if there's something going on in the market that requires you to be more careful, then you're going to be more careful. You're not going to be stupid and foolish and do crazy things just to prove a point that a system is working. That's not the way to do it. And JK, if they just started this week, they should be taking a month in sim anyway. Totally agree. Totally agree. At least 2 weeks in sim. Anybody that joined this week and took live trades without practicing, it's called self-sabotage. And it's what traders constantly do. We sabotage ourselves over and over and over. I'm telling you, practice for a couple of weeks, if not a month. Learn how reports move the markets, the instruments that you're learning to trade or that you want to trade. Even if you're an expert, you should take a week to practice the system. I never would trade something live the first day or the first week. I just wouldn't. You know how I trade our test trades. I don't. Members trade them before I do. People in the trade room sometimes trade my testing before I'm willing to trade it live. That's how careful I am. But my being careful has brought our trading account from 13,300 to almost 22,000. Trading not huge amounts either. I don't consider a $20,000 account a huge account. That's a nice sized account to trade futures. Okay? It's a nice sized account to trade futures. It's not a huge account. So just a little bit of my typical rant. I've been ranting a lot. I mean, I don't know if that's really a rant. That's not a rant. So anyway, so what's going on today? Today, a little bit unusual. We've got a report called the University of Michigan, the preliminary version. We've been looking at it in the trade room for the past years. We've looked at it for years. My boss stopped releasing reports about 3 or 4 months ago. He stopped releasing reports. But I've still been having trade rooms, especially because this report has an inflation element to the report. if you notice, 5-year inflation expectations, Michigan inflation expectations. So because of the market's obsession with inflation worry, this report potentially has more impact. And in fact, over the last 3 months, the report's been behaving better. And I said to my boss, take a look. If you agree, bring back the DMM. And that's what he did. He brought back the DMM. Okay. That doesn't mean, now this is a report that's been suspended. I probably don't recommend that people trade live today. If you were going to trade it, first of all, it's not a family money trade. So if you're going to trade it live, it's a risk. It's also been a report that hasn't been working. But I like to have, at a minimum, 1 trade room a day, no matter what. And this is the only news report available today. And it's a report that I kind of like the report when it's behaving well. It's not been a bad report over the years. So that's why we're here, to see if it's got any life to it. Do I want to trade it live? Maybe 1 contract in our test account, maybe. It might be worth it. It might be worth a shot to see if it really is worth looking at seriously again. In July, it had a decent looking trade, and I have the videos. In June, let me take a look. June 11th, preliminary University of Michigan, the report worked. Gold moved the wrong direction, but we know for a fact now that gold does not always move in the direction we expect, like it used to in the old days. And it's had 3 months in a row, according to my notes, of working. Okay, so let's look at July. Preliminary data. All right, not revised. There's 2 versions of this report. When you're trading preliminary data, that's the more impactful data. And then about 10 days later, they release a revised version. And again, because there's inflation elements in the report, even sometimes the revised report can have a little bit of impact. So here's last month, and it fills pretty quickly. The news is negative. Gold is moving in the right, quote unquote, the correct direction. When the news is negative, gold used to generally move up. It hits the first target, which is not very big. It was only about 5 ticks. It gave you an opportunity to get a target 1. Target 1. Now you can see it did not give you a great opportunity to move your stop to safety. So it was pretty choppy. And then it stopped me out, and I gave back 3 more ticks. So barely covered expenses last month. Barely covered expenses. Okay. And you watch it, chopping around, not really a great follow through. So may not yet be ready for prime time, as they used to say, if you know what I'm talking about. Then in June, here's what it looked like. Same data, preliminary data in June. Little bit of mixed news. You have positive and negative. You get a pop to the upside, a better move than July. Definitely a better move than July. And, I would call that a nice news move. That's a nice, relaxed news move that allows you to just hit your targets and take your profit and leave. That's the perfect kind of movement, almost. Not quite perfect, but very close. And you want to learn to recognize a news move. So, it's chopping around, then boom, the news comes out, and then you get, all of a sudden, you get direction, and you get a little bit of thrust in the direction, that original move. That's a news move. And you want to learn to recognize what a news move looks like, okay? Now, I do want to say hello to our YouTube friends also. If a couple of you would be kind enough, give us a like. We would really enjoy that. It helps us out. It's good for our channel. We streamed like 5 times this week. I think that's worth a like. What do you think? So June was a nice trade on University of Michigan. July was mediocre. And then you have May. Let's see what May looked like. So here comes May. Brackets on the chart. And watch the move. You get a pop, which is a drop actually. You should call it a drop. Not as good of a news move as we had the month before. See how it's just chopping around? Even though the news results were all agreeable and it was a good offset, meaning that the news expected was different enough from what they got, it eventually did create a very nice news move. So watch that. It was a little bit slow to respond, but we've also been seeing since the world crisis began, some news reports are slow to respond, and we've seen it a lot. It's not like anecdotal, where it's occasional. News reports have often just moved the index we expect them to move more slowly than in the past. It's just something that's been happening, and it means you want to be more patient when you get filled. Now, in this particular case, also, gold was heading not in the direction we would have expected for negative news. So it may be possible that for whatever reason, the market viewed that as positive news. Maybe the inflation wasn't as strong as the market was expecting. You know, I'm not listening to the news result on TV or on Financial Juice or anything. So I'm just saying what could possibly cause gold to go in the direction that's not expected. The other issue, though, that we're honestly dealing with, a year and a half ago, before the crisis, when you traded gold with good news, gold would most often go down, and on bad news, gold would most often go up. There was not a lot of deviation from that type of movement on news. As I've been saying since the crisis began, that has changed. Gold often moves with the markets. You also have the effect of cryptocurrencies have really radically affected gold. A lot of people have moved from trading gold to trading cryptos. You know, gold has always been considered an alternate currency. Cryptocurrency obviously is an alternate currency. So there's a lot of reasons why gold has changed its behavior. Gold characteristics are definitely different than they used to be. So the report doesn't look bad. So here's my thoughts, right? Here's my thoughts. We definitely, we made money this week. Um, I had a bad trade on Tuesday and I lost money in this account. This is the test account. That was on Thursday. The PPI trade was a non-family money trade, and that was a difficult trade. And that was in this test account. I'm happy to risk money on a report that's reliable, trading well, but it's not quite a family money trade. Today's trade doesn't fit that bill. This is a trade that it's been suspended for 3 to 4 months. We haven't even generated a report. So very honestly, I would, bear with me 1 second. I very honestly would probably test this one time. It's not going to be a family money trade, even if it trades great today, because last month was mediocre. It has not, it's had two decent moves. So it needs to, a report needs to prove itself. Okay, does everybody understand that concept? A report needs to prove itself before you want to spend your money on it. We've got reports that we want to spend our money on. There are reports every week that we're going to trade. Some weeks are going to be quieter than others, but that doesn't mean just because it's a Friday and just because this is the only report, it doesn't mean you have to automatically put your money at risk. No, it does not mean that. So I'm gonna err on the side of caution. I'm gonna do a full test of the report. And I'm gonna test it. I test it according to the DMM, and let's see how it behaves. All right. So, Sheena, I believe you're here. Watch me carefully, because I believe, Sheena, if you can do this with me, I think you're going to find that your problem is, I'm guessing that your problem is related to time. I'm hoping that your problem is related to the fact that you may be entering time incorrectly. So Sheena, can you hear me? I don't mean to point you out, but I promised Sheena I would help her after the trade. She's having a problem with something, and it may help her if she is watching me enter the trade, okay? So I hope she's watching. JOBB version 9 is what you choose, all right? It's a bracket of 5. That's what the chart, the daily market mover says. So I've got a bracket of 5. Then I'm just going to slide down to my orders. This range start time has no bearing on a breakout trade. This is a breakout trade. So I'm interested in one target for 5 ticks, right here. One target for 5 ticks, a second target for 8 ticks, okay? Not complicated. So what I'm going to do is I have position size 1 is a 1. Position size 2 is a 1. In other words, one contract for each position. 2 positions, 2 targets. My first target is 5. It's already at 5. My second target is 8. So I'm going to set my second target to 8. And then my stop is a 10. Stop loss ticks is set to 10. So it should be 10, and it is. Then I'm going to slide down. Activation time is the time that orders will show up on the chart, okay? So that's the entry time. Entry time equals activation time. Entry time equals activation time, okay? I've got to change the name of entry to activate. I think I can do that. Get the programmer to do it. So our activation time is 9 Eastern time, 59 and 58 seconds. 9:59 and 58 seconds. I've got my account. Trade type is a breakout trade. Very important. It must be set on breakout trade. Okay. Let me record this, and I'll start over real quick. Okay. Entry time, 9:59:58. That's when our orders are going to show up on the chart. Okay. And let me start from the very beginning. So you got to put your strategy on the chart by right-clicking the chart, clicking strategy, double click. All right. My bracket is 5. Slide down. No other time matters yet. Position size 1 is a 1. That's how many contracts for position 1. Position size 2 is 1 also because I have a target of 5 and a target of 8. So a bracket of 5. Profit target 1 is 5 ticks. Profit target 2 is 10 ticks. And my stop is 10. Stop loss ticks equals 10. I'm going to slide down. Unattended time doesn't matter. We're not trading unattended. That time means nothing. Okay? So now our activation time is it's a 10 o'clock trade. We enter, our orders show up Eastern time, 9:59:58. That's the activation time on the daily market report. So that's what I'm testing. Entry time equals activate time. Okay. Trade type is a breakout trade. Trade type is a breakout trade. The mode is strategy internal. That's the method. It really is just, all it means is we don't use an ATM strategy, AJ. Our software is an ATM strategy. But you do have the ability, if you wanted to, not use our settings and insert an ATM strategy. You could put the name of your ATM strategy up at the top and change the mode from strategy internal to ATM strategy. Why would you do that when our software is an ATM? It's like a super ATM. There's no reason to do it for most people. Maybe someone super advanced might want to do it. Okay, you might have something special you want to program, but for most of us, just not necessary because our software can do almost anything that you can program yourself. You just have to learn how to do it. So our entry time, 9:59:58 is our activation time. It's a breakout trade. The account is on sim because I'm not trading, I'm testing. I'm going to label the trade using the instrument gold that I'm trading, GC gold, and the name of the report, University Mich Prelim. Okay. I'm set up. So now what I have to do, I can get rid of my daily report. I don't need it. AJ, why have it? Because some people want flexibility. You don't have to do it, but someone else may want to do it. That's all. It's just flexibility. Makes the software more powerful. There are people that want to create ATMs. I don't, because the software, like for me, it's an ATM. I don't need it. So the account is on sim. You apply it and you okay it. And then in order to get the JOBB icon on your chart, you must enable the strategy. There's the icon. That means that I'm set to go, right? So AJ, why have air conditioning in your car if you don't like air conditioning, right? You get it? I'm going to go to the website time.is to sync my computer, and you see how it actually does that. AJ, it's just a question of choice. When the software was originally written, that was one of the original features. The software did a lot less also in the old days. It didn't have trailing stops. You couldn't move your stop at all. So I could imagine why someone might want to have written an ATM in the old days. But we've updated the software so many times since then. But every now and then we get very advanced traders that want the ability to use their own ATM. They don't accept the fact that someone else's software can do things for them that they are, they want to do on their own. So that's how you get the software to activate. You have to make sure enabled is checked. And as long as the ID is activated correctly, the JOBB icon should show up on your chart. And when the JOBB icon is on the chart, that means your trade is going to take place. It certainly should. If all things are correct, your time could still be set wrong. Then what will happen is your trade will not activate until the time that comes up. Like what if I had set 10:02? My trade would not activate until the report and the news was well over. So it would be a completely different response to a different, almost a completely different event. Okay. So now we're waiting for the report to come out, waiting for the news. JK, I really think labeling the trades is really smart. The other thing you can do is after you create a strategy, it's getting close to the trade time, but you could go down to the bottom and click on template, and you can save a template for every strategy, every report that you want, so that you don't even have to enter the reports in. All right, so the news is coming out. News is coming out. We'll see if see what our test looks like. I think that because of the inflation element, that this is going to probably work. AJ, I'll show you after the trade. We're too close to the report. You have to go new and click on Ninja Output and just minimize that chart. So the news came out. It did not show up on investing.com. It filled us short. The news is negative. I'm looking at it on Financial Juice Pro. The news is negative, not getting a good follow through at all, not even slightly. In fact, it's going the wrong direction for our trade, and it would have been a losing trade. Now, I have a couple of issues that I would maybe have done differently, because look, there is a good news trade to the upside here. The first thing I would be interested in, I'm going to turn off my trade. This is a trade that did not work according to our setups. It looks like it would have been filled short. So the first question is, how do you turn on the option to capture output? Everybody that's a member should go to new, Ninja Script Output. It'll create a chart. Okay, and the chart, it might have data in it also. Okay, it might have data in it. Now, I've already got a Ninja Script Output chart created. I better have one. So go to new, Ninja Script Output. And then what you want to do is minimize that chart, minimize it. So it's a part of every trading workspace that you use. If you just trade on one workspace, I have a workspace called Trade Room. I also have an earning workspace. Ninja Script Output is on every one of those charts, okay? It's on every one of those workspaces because it shows you what the strategy has done, especially when you're trading live. So if you ever have something that takes place and you don't know why it took place, we can have the Ninja Script Output analyzed, okay? So today's trade didn't work, all right? Today's trade would not have worked. What was the execution time? That would be the first thing I was interested in. What time were our fills? So we got filled. We sold at 1 second after the news came out. Okay, 1 second after the news came out. Now I like to put my trades on at 9:59:59. I don't like to put my trade on at 58. I think in these volatile markets, sometimes you can get filled early. Today it didn't fill early, but it was such a tight fill relating to the size of the bracket that a tiny bit bigger bracket, which very honestly, I would have preferred minimum a 6 bracket, but I was testing the DMM exactly as it was sent today. I think that I have a slightly better setup for this trade, and I'll show you, because it's clear that University of Michigan is starting to move. All right, we've looked at four reports. All 4 of them, except for last month, moved pretty well, right? They moved pretty well. So what I would do to keep yourself safer, first let's look at the video. So if you have a test trade that doesn't work, you want to analyze why it might not have worked, right? We had a bracket of 5, which I think is too small, and we had an entry time of 58. I would enter at 59. But let's watch exactly what happened with the setup that we got. The news came out and it filled us exactly using a 5 bracket. In other words, it didn't go past the 5 ticks, so that if you had a 7-tick bracket on University of Michigan, you would have had an awesome winning trade. I would adjust my bracket on this trade to 7. In my opinion, I would not use brackets of 5 on gold trades. It's too tight. It's too tight. So I'll actually talk to my boss about this trade, because if we have a difference of opinion, I have to convince him why I think we should use a bigger bracket. And if I were trading this live, that's what I would do, because I'm risking live money. Every trader has to make the ultimate decision on how to trade for themselves. It has to be an ultimate decision. If you think a slightly bigger bracket is safe, then you should modify settings and use a slightly bigger bracket. You can see in the way that this particular report behaved. Now, normally you don't make a decision based on one event, the movement of one event. But in general, in these current markets, I don't use a 5-tick bracket on gold. It's just too small. And it was proven today that it was too small. Sort of like what happened to me this week on bonds, where I've sworn over and over to use a 3-tick bracket on all the bond auctions, and I didn't use a 3-tick bracket on one of the auctions, and it cost me. Okay, it cost me. So you got to make a rule. You got to stick with it and stay with it until events prove otherwise. Okay. Now, I don't have the schedule made for next week yet, so I can't tell everybody how busy it's going to be or how not busy. We know we have a Tuesday trade. We know we have a 20-year bond auction, which is one of the best bond trades. It's actually been the best behaving bond trade. The 30-year was great yesterday. We always wish we had a WASD report every week, that's for sure. We have U.S. retail next week, which is a trap trade. So you might want to go to the user website and practice the trap trade, okay? Because U.S. retail is Tuesday, that will be a trap trade. Absolutely, JK, that was a slow enough bad report today that you didn't have to watch it and take a full loss. I did that. I took the full loss just because I was testing the DMM, JK. If I was trading live, I wouldn't have sat there like a deer in the headlights and taken a full loss. I would not. I wouldn't have done it. I mean, there are times when I will be a deer in the headlights just because that sometimes happens to you. You know what I mean? And I can't say that I'm always going to trade and manage my trades perfectly, but that trade, you could tell it wasn't going to work. and the news was on the wrong side. Unfortunately, investing.com has been very inconsistent in showing the news results also. We might have to go to a different program, try something different, because it's working so poorly lately in giving us the news. That's why we use Financial Juice Pro as our backup. It's our backup system. But it's my main system for getting the news from a Squawk Box in my ear. They have a streaming Squawk Box, and this is not a very expensive subscription, folks. So if you're serious about news trading, and then they have a news result on the left, and they almost always get it on time. I would say as close to always as possible. And they speak it in your ear. So you don't have to be distracted by looking at a website trying to, figure out what the results are. Very often you have a narrator telling you if the results were good, bad, or indifferent. That's a real big plus. Now, I promised, so Chantal, thank you everybody on YouTube. Please give us a like if you would. Please give us a like. We would love that. And I'm going to stick around. If Sheena is here and she'll answer me, I'm going to try and help her to make sure that she's setting up a strategy properly. So, Sheena, if you're here, don't be shy. Let me know you're here. And you can follow me in setting up a test strategy. So I'll give it a minute or so. So let's see, Sheena, I can see that you're here. The question is, are you able to type to me? Are you able to type? Hold on. All you have to do is type in that space at the bottom and press return, and it'll show up. Anybody? Looking at NQ also. 10 o'clock NQ moves, AJ, are not news related. If you watch the NQ every day, it makes a move at 10 o'clock, news or no news. We would not trade the NQ at 10 o'clock because that's the real reason. It just doesn't move. It just doesn't move properly. It's not moving because of news. I mean, sometimes it might be affected by the news, but it's really, really choppy and directionally challenged at times. The indexes at 10 o'clock, they're kind of doing their own thing. They're kind of doing their own thing. So, Sheena, I don't see you talking to me. I mean, JK, we have some trades that we use the NQ on. CPI, we use it. FOMC statement, we use it. There are trades where it works, but you have to really be picky when and where you want to use the NQ. So, if I was willing to replay this trade, I'm just going to give Sheena another minute or two to answer me. Otherwise, I'll make a quick video how to activate software, and hopefully that will help her. So for everybody, it's the same. Let's say you want to get your software to work and fire. So all you do is right-click the chart. First, I'm going to start and just reset. I'm just going to reset my SIM account. So it's set to 0. So in order to use the strategy, right-click the chart, click on Strategies, very simple. Click on JOBB version 9, and then let's say we're setting it up for University of Michigan. You want to have a DMM, a daily market report, to use as your guide to set up a trade, okay? So I'm going to use a bracket of 5. So the first thing I do is slide down to bracket, type in 5. My bracket is 5. I'm not trading a range trade right now, so we could ignore anything about entry range trade and go to strategy internal trading. That's all that means is we're using our software to trade. So we have 2 targets, 5 ticks and 8 ticks. That means we have 2 positions. Position 1 is a 1 contract. Position 2, 1 contract. My first target is 5 ticks, so profit target 1 is a 5. My second target 2 is 8 ticks. Profit target 2 is an 8. My stop loss ticks is 10. 10 is already in there. That's my trade setup, almost done. I can slide down, keep sliding down until I get to the entry time, which is the activation time. Entry time. And we're going to say it's 10:16. Okay, we're going to use a different time because the time is later. So we're going to say our trade is 10:16. It's 10:14:25 right now. It's a breakout trade. It's trading gold. The account is a simulation trade. I like to label all my trades, so I call it gold, GC, University Mish, Prelim P, and now I'm ready. All I do is apply it, okay it. You must remember, if you're trading sim, your chart must be on sim, which it is. It's not on live. You don't want your chart to be on live, right? Live is when it shows your account and it changes color. Put it on sim, and then you must enable the strategy. That will put your icon on the screen, and now you're waiting for 10:16, our activation time, okay? 10:16, our activation time. And there's not going to be a move of any substance because there's no news at 10:16, but it's going to trigger, it's going to put our orders on the chart. And if you get a 5-tick move one way or the other, it'll put us in a simulated trade. So we got 10 seconds. That's how you create and install a breakout strategy onto the charts. There's our brackets, a little bit small. You can stretch the charts up. And you wound up, we got a 5-tick move to the downside. Almost looks like the real trade. This is strictly a discretionary trade, and you can use our software to trade discretionarily anytime you want. You don't have to trade reports, right? You can move your targets around. You could make bigger targets. You could make your stop smaller if you don't like a trade. If your trade is profitable, we have a break-even button, but the trade must be profitable by a couple of ticks or it won't do anything. It'll move your stop to break even. Bingo, I hit the break even button. You move my stop to break even. I can combine my orders. It'll combine the orders. Bingo. And then you have a trade. Okay, the combine button combines the orders to the closest order to the current price. So if you use combine, if you have 2 orders open, it'll combine the orders together to the price closest to the current price. That's how the combine button works. That is how you create a strategy with our software. Okay, so what I'm going to do is make a video. I'm going to render this video for Sheena and send it to her. And wish everybody a great weekend. If anybody has any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them right now. Anybody have any questions? AJ, if you go to the member website, there are a ton of educational videos called Back to School Quick Start. Okay, Back to School Quick Start, that goes over so much stuff. So much stuff. You can watch videos all weekend, AJ. Lots of webinars that we recorded, but on the member website. Just log in like you were getting your DMM reports. Look to the left and you'll see back to school quick start. You'll see a button and everybody can watch those. You don't even have to buy a product. You just have to register for the weekly schedule, and the weekly schedule is free. The break even button will show up only when a trade is enabled. Okay. When you enable a trade, the break even button will show up. Up here on the taskbar. See? Taskbar. BE is break even. Combine is combine. But a trade must be enabled for that button to show up. Okay? Any other questions? Any other questions? Happy to answer anything. Anything. Anybody? YouTube folks, give us a couple of likes before you go. We're going to shut down YouTube. We'll see you next week. We're going to stream at least 4 times next week. So thank you very much for watching. AJ, have an awesome weekend. You too. And you know, folks, you can always reach me at the following email. I do my email all weekend. I don't shut down. I'm open 24 hours, 24 hours a day. Not 24 hours, but I'm around a lot. You can reach me, help@10minutetrades.com. I try to be really good about answering email in a timely, quick manner. KT, let me boot up and show you